Hi there, this is Love Johar. Thank you so much for tuning into this video and thank you so much for watching. Today, as the part of the video already says, this is part 2 of the new standard discussion. So I will be talking about two different main clauses in the new standard, ISO 27001 2022 standard. The first clause that I will take is the clause number 4, which is context of the organization. And under that, there are two clauses that I will take mainly. The first clause is 4.1, understanding the organization and its context. And the second clause is 4.2, understanding the needs and expectations of the interested parties. So these are the two clauses that I will be discussing in this video. Only humble request to all of the viewers is to have a pen and paper handy so that you can have your notes ready by the end of the video. Otherwise, there is no point watching the video if you are not making any notes, because half of the information you will forget later on. So this is very important information that I will be discussing in this video. Anybody who is having hard time in understanding the standard will find this video very useful, because at the end of the day you have to make sure that you understand the clauses. If you will not understand the clauses, you will not be able to implement the standard, and you will not be able to comply with the standard. It is as simple as that. So I would highly request you keep a pen and paper handy, and whatever I discuss in this video, you watch it at least 2 to 3 times so that you can actually digest this information, because there is a lot to cover. And secondly, you keep notes, because if you keep notes, it is a way to keep the information with you. So in 4.1, understanding the organization and its context. So what does the standard says? The standard says that the organization shall determine external and internal issues that are relevant to its purpose and that affect its ability to achieve the intended outcomes of its information security management system. This is 4.1. Okay, so there are different things that the standard is talking about here. The number one thing is determining what are the external and internal issues. Okay, so we have to understand what are these issues. External issues, internal issues, what are these issues? But the issues should be relevant to its purpose. What it means by that is the issues should be relevant to the implementation of this ISO 27001 standard that you are trying to do here. There is no other relevance for these issues. Okay, so just keep this in mind. This is very important. And that affect its ability to achieve the intended outcomes. Now, what are the intended outcomes that the standard wants us to focus at? The intended outcomes are your information security objectives that you have defined, and we will come to that. What are these information security objectives, how you define them? I will give you examples as well, how you define these objectives as well, and why they are very important. They should be measurable also, so don't worry, I will give you examples for that. So to achieve the intended outcomes of its information security management system. So this is 4.1. Okay, what it speaks about here is understanding the organization and its context. Many people get confused here. What do we mean by the context term? What do we mean by understanding the organization? It entails a lot of things. So let me first make you understand what is understanding the organization actually means. If you try to understand in detail, you have to understand the organizational structure. You have to understand what are the roles, responsibilities, accountabilities, and hierarchy in the organization. What is the organization structure where you are going to implement the ISO 27001? Second thing, the most important, which I think most of the people will not even remember after noting down, would be business drivers. What are the business drivers? What are the organizational drivers that are actually driving the business? These would actually help you. If you have them in place, this will actually help you in defining your information security policies, objectives and strategies. So you have to make sure you understand the organizational culture, the structure, and second thing is organizational drivers. What are the drivers? What are the business drivers here? Third thing is organizational culture. What are the mission, vision, values? What are the internal organization structure? What is this? Okay, so you have to understand this. And why you have to understand this is very important, guys. You have to make a note of this, because if you will not understand this first critical part, you will face a hard time later on. That I will explain in the upcoming videos why it is so important. And many people don't understand this part. Trust me on that. The third thing that you have to remember, the fourth thing actually, is the way the organization is actually working, how the organization is working, how the processes are working. You have to know the processes. You have to know how many processes are interconnected and how many processes are separately working, how the data is flowing, how information is flowing from here to there, where information is flowing internally, externally. You have to understand these things. Who is making the decisions? What are the different security processes being followed? What are the controls already present in the business operations? What are the different management activities happening inside the organization? You have to understand that. Without understanding these critical aspects, trust me, impossible to implement ISO 27001. After that, you have to understand what are the available resources, because without resources you won't be able to implement ISO 27001. So you have to understand what are the different available resources in that organization. Now, what do I mean by resources? Many people would be thinking only people. No, here I am talking about people, process, technology, equipment, systems, capital, time, knowledge, personnel, resources, everything you have to consider here. What are the available resources? Not only limiting it to people. So, in nutshell, what do you have in the organization already in place that can help you in this implementation and develop your solutions, your policies, your procedures that you are about to develop? What are the competencies which are already there that you have to understand and make a note of it, guys? This is only 4.1 that I am considering so far. Okay, I haven't got to 4.2 yet. And if the video goes too long, I will make it in the next video. But try to understand it. The whole purpose why I'm creating these videos is for your understanding. You should understand it. Okay. So here, after resources, you have to understand what are the supplier relationships, what are the contractual relationships, what are the supplier contracts in place, what kind of contracts are there, what kind of suppliers are there. Okay, because this is very important. Supplier requirement, understanding the suppliers of the organization is a crucial part nowadays. I did not stress upon it earlier, but now I am highly recommending to understand this aspect, because your organizational information is actually being shared with these suppliers. So you have to have a note of this. No other way. After that, you have to understand the customers. What are the customers? What are the clients? Who are the clients? Which are the sectors? Where is the organization actually supplying their products? Who is the end user? You have to have a note of all these things. It's not simple. Standard, if you will implement properly, it takes a lot of hard work and understanding. Okay, so that's where I'm coming from. You have to list down all these things. This is understanding the organizational and its context that we have only discussed so far. You have to make a table. Now I'm telling you how to do it, because many people say that I do not tell you how to do it. So now I am telling you how to do it. Make a table. You have to note down. Okay, you have to note down what are the products and services which are being produced by the organization. Who are the suppliers? What are the processes? Who are the critical resources? And again, by resources, I do not mean people. You have to think about resources in a different manner. People, process, technology, capital, different types of resources are there in any organization. Okay, financial also you have to consider. Okay, so think about these things. What are the critical assets of the organization? If you can find out that in the initial aspect only, it will be really helpful in the later on clauses. You will see that. Okay, so now This is what is there in context of the organization. Okay. And now many people would be thinking that I have not covered 4.2. So let me go to 4.2 also. And in the meantime, if anyone has any questions for 4.1, they can post it in the comment section. Happy to respond to them. So even in the chat, I think there is a live chat here. You can ask your question here. So second thing after 4.1 is understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. Why I am considering 4.2 with 4.1? You should also be thinking that I haven't addressed all the things that I discussed. I haven't addressed external and internal issues yet. I haven't addressed what are the intended outcomes, security objectives. These two things I haven't touched upon yet. Okay. So these two things will be actually a derivative of 4.2. Okay. And you will understand why I am saying that in just a moment. So in 4.2, you have to understand the needs and expectations of interested parties. Now, you should be thinking, what are these interested parties? We haven't heard of it. Okay. What are the interested parties? And these interested parties, they should be interested in the implementation of ISMS. There is no other interest that we are looking at here. There is no other aspect of the interest here. Only aspect is the interested parties should have some type of interest in the implementation of this standard with the information security of the organization. They should have some type of interest. Okay. So what are the requirements of these interested parties? Which of these requirements can you address with the implementation of this ISO 27001? This could be one of your objectives also. This could be one of your objectives also. Why? Because let's say your customers are based in Europe. Okay. Then you have to make sure that you keep a note of this. What are the different regulatory requirements that you have to undertake if your customers is in Europe? Okay. Then again, you have to make a note of this part. Without understanding, how will you keep a note of this? There could be other regulatory requirements in other countries also. In Europe, it is GDPR, but in different countries, different legal requirements are there. So that's why it is saying you have to understand which of the requirements can you address with the information security management system implementation for these interested parties. Now, who are the interested parties? Interested party, as I said, could be anyone who has interest in the implementation of ISO 27001, who is actually affected by this implementation in any way. It could be your employees, it could be your clients, it could be your employee families, it could be suppliers, supply chain partners, it could be government agencies, regulatory bodies, it could be shareholders of your organization, board of directors, it could be owners of your business. These are different interested parties that could be there. Okay. So people ask, what are the interested parties? These are the different interested parties which are there. I have already named them. Okay. Because these are the people, these are the interested parties who are actually affected. Okay. When you implement the organization. Okay. Your employees are also there. You have different functions of the organization. You have different departments in the organization. These are also your interested parties. HR will be affected by ISO 27001 implementation because there are HR related controls. Admin team, facilities would be affected by the implementation again because there are physical security controls. So again, these are your interested parties who will be affected by the ISO 27001 implementation. So that's where you have to make a note of it. Okay, it could be your competitors also. Okay, it could be your customers, it could be your distributors, vendors, investors, owners, regulatory bodies, service providers, suppliers, your staff, your transport services, your emergency services, your different groups that you associate with on an organizational level. The trade groups are there. Different parts are there for interested parties, but you have to make sure you keep a note of them. Okay, that's why 4.2 also comes into play, and it clearly specifies that you have to understand the needs and expectations of interested parties. okay, who are relevant to ISMS, who are whose requirements are addressed when you will implement the standard. That's why they are really important. Okay. So again, coming back to the main question, what do we mean by context? Context means what is the organization? What is it that the organization will achieve? What are the outcomes that the organization will achieve? What are the end results that the organization will achieve after implementation of the standard? That is what the meaning of context. Many people do not understand. Okay, that's why I'm again and again emphasizing there. So now coming back to 4.1, where it says organization shall determine external issues. Now you tell me, whose issues is it talking about? It is talking about the external and internal issues of these interested parties only. Okay. Once you list down the internal and external parties, these needs and expectation of interested parties, you have to then understand, their issues. What are the different kind of issues that you are dealing with? So in order to understand the context of the organization, you first need to identify who are the interested parties, and once interested parties are identified, then you have to list down the internal and external issues. This is how it works. Okay, this is how actually works. So now let me give you some more examples where you can actually understand it more better. Just give me 1 second. What are the different needs and expectations? Okay, so what could be the needs and expectations is something that you should understand. Okay, so how your customers will be affected if we implement this standard, then how they will be affected could be one of the things. Okay, so if you will have any type of security incident, if you will have least less number of security incidents after the implementation, then of course the customers will be affected. Their data is safe. Okay, how suppliers are affected? You will be able to have a better and secure type of transaction with your suppliers in terms of day-to-day data transfers. That's how suppliers are affected. How legal and regulatory bodies are affected? You will be able to apply their applicability, their different requirements. You will be able to apply by this standard. That's how they will be affected. Okay, how different employees will be affected? Employees have to ensure that they understand the standard. They would be aware about information security. They have to attend awareness trainings. That's where employees are affected. Okay, they have to make sure they understand the privacy aspect of information. They have to understand why information is so important. Okay, so there is a security culture that you are trying to build in the organization. How the business owners are affected, how the shareholders are affected. Okay, so here also you have to understand, shareholders now have to think about information security strategies. So that is how the needs and expectations are there, the requirements are there. Okay, so they have to understand that they have to follow now secure operations for any type of information transfers or data transfers. Okay, that these are some of the needs and expectations of the interested parties that I have just discussed here. These are some very high level needs and expectations of the interested parties that I have given you here. Okay, so I hope you must have got some understanding. If not, there is a Telegram link that I have provided already in this video in the description section. You can always post your questions there, and I would be more than happy to respond back. Okay, but I think that you should try to understand two things. What are the interested parties? First thing. Second thing is, what are the external and internal issues related with these interested parties? That is the whole aspect where 4.1 and 4.2 revolves around. We will also discuss about the outcomes, where it talks about the organizational outcomes in the another upcoming videos. But here you have to understand, this is how the standard is starting. and whatever I am telling you is from the new standard only. Okay, nothing here is being told from the old standard. Each and everything that I'm referring to here is from the new standard only. Okay, so anyone who is starting their implementation, feel free to refer to these videos. And again, if you have any doubts so far under 4.1 and 4.2 under context of the organization, this is just the beginning. We are just starting now, and I will be covering all the clauses and all the controls this time. I will not skip even a single clause or a single control, because last time I did only half of the clauses, and many people have requested to put full videos for all the clauses. So this time I am doing it with the new standard, and I will make sure that I will put all the clauses down, and I will try to make all the clauses very much detailed for you, so that it is very easy to understand. That is why I am doing it for you, friends. So thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.